Good afternoon, all of my long travel, no prep, street race, drag and drive, budget, spend way too much money people that I love. Thanks for coming back and watching another video that I am proudly putting together in iMovie with an iPhone. But I want to show you how much I've learned in just the past week and a half, just screwing around with Fusion, pushing myself to do stuff better, trying to make things better, and just learning and diving deep down into the rabbit hole that is 3D design and even 3D printing. This video is not so much about printing, it's all about the design. But I'm gonna show you what I've been doing, what I've learned, and what I've came up with since I've been learning all this stuff, and why I want to do it. So here it is. So what I'm gonna do is show you where I started and where I'm at now. But the first thing to know is I started with these. These are just some calipers that tell you exact measurements. Bada boom, bada bing. And I sold out all my gap brackets. Those are what I used to sell when I was affiliated with Mac. And I still sold them afterwards because I had a crap ton of them. But to be honest, I liked them when we first started doing them, but I started not to like them because, man, to weld a set up, it took so much prep work, and you bolt them together and make sure they're square and this and that. And there was like so many welds on them, and we TIG welded them. So it took me to do one set of brackets. It took me probably an hour, you know. Moo welded a lot of them, but even when I was doing them, I was a little bit quicker than he was. It took forever to do, just because there was a lot to do, and they get hot. You gotta let them cool down because you want them to look good, and they would get rusty. Then you gotta clean them up, and like the design of them for a first design was great, you know. But I didn't design them, and I always wanted to make them better, and I never knew how. I didn't have anybody to do that for me. So it just I was kind of stuck with them, you know. We sold them. I upped the price because I was having to do so many of them. But when we first started selling them, they were like 225 bucks maybe. They were cheap, man. 200 something bucks. And by the time we had to pay for them, ship them there, you know, all the setup, the consumables, all that. I really don't think we made any money on them ever. But it was a great introduction to us doing some production parts. But fast forward, you know, I split away, we split up, Max dissolved, whatever. Now I had this abundance of leftover parts, and I had no choice but to try to get rid of them because it was just money sitting there. So got rid of them, and now I've been wanting to do them because, man, people have been blowing my phone up about these parts. But I didn't have any, and I had no way to just recreate them, you know, or to sell them or whatever. I've just been moving. So I took this, and I went out there and measured a stock Caltrack bracket, and this is what I came up with after. It's very similar to what we had, and it's also very similar to Matt Funkhauser's brackets. I know a lot of people are going to say we copied them, but there's you know, we've been doing them for about the same amount of time, and there's only so many ways you can make something. And at the end of the day, they're just parts, you know. I put my touches on them. I try to make them better. You know, everybody, they have the freedom to do whatever they want. I'm not copying anybody. I'm not trying to rip him off. He makes great products. This is just something I've been making and I want to keep making. Nothing against him. I hope, you know, he doesn't have anything against me. So this is what I got, and this is where I started. And I wasn't really sure about this design, but I actually really, really like it now. So here it is. So this is where I started the other day. I started where basically when we first started doing gap brackets, this back piece right here and this side piece right here were, and then this main piece here were 3 separate pieces. So that's 3 separate pieces right there. You have to square up, weld, all that, you know. And it took so long. So I made both of these. You know, you can flatten this out, and I'll show you that. That makes 1, and then there was 2 back here. So that's 3 less joints, 3 less welds, and less time to set everything up. So I ended up doing this whole deal, which looks kind of like a beadlock, and then I did this, and I'm like, I just don't, like, is that too much? I don't know if I like that, you know? But I'm like, man, what if there was something in here, you know, like an insert in here? Well, then I realized, oh, I can Google and figure out, watch a YouTube video on how to convert materials to carbon and fusion. So that's kind of where I started with this whole deal. And I learned how to, if you go up here, you can insert from McMaster-Carr catalog, and you can go through McMaster-Carr and you can download anything on their website and insert it directly into your, get out of here, right into your drawing. And at first I actually had this piece back here. There was a bend right here to where this was actually perpendicular here. It bent this at a 90 degree because I know a lot of people's shocks are kind of like at an angle going towards it, and ours, with our old gap brackets, you had to remount your shocks. So that's why I ended up having to do it in addition to this, because I wanted to make a bend there, but Bruner was like, there's no way you can't do this bend and that bend and all these bends in this one piece. It's almost, it'd be impossible to really make. So I had to flatten that back out and then put like a little just universal U shock mount there. But that's down the road. I'll talk about that down the road. So this is what I had, and I'll put the other, I made, so this is, you know, the body of it. Let me flip it for you guys. Sorry, it's kind of hard to do with one hand, to be honest. But normally our little pieces, you know, you got your 2 pieces that come here where actual Caltrac bar bolts. And I always, you know, I had to make spacers, custom spacers, and use bolts to bolt these 2 pieces together, then set them in there, and then try to get them square and centered on this hole and square to the bracket and square up and down and all that. And I wanted to fix that. So I put these notches in there, and not to mention those 2 pieces were 2 separate pieces. And now I've been able to make it, get out of here. Can I close that? I've been able to make this piece one piece that is 2 bends and has 4 locators on it that'll keep this thing square, level, flush, and centered with no prep work. Like, this is just one piece that sits right down in there, and I can go bam, bam, weld both those joints, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. That just saved me, that saved me 5 minutes. Well, then it saves me another 5 minutes on bolting it together and welding it and cleaning it all up because it doesn't fit right or whatever, because they're all cattywampus. So say this right here saves me 10 to 15 minutes, and that's one bracket. Say I'm welding up 100 brackets. You know how much time that is? That's a lot of freaking time. I can't do the math in my head, but that's a lot of time when you're welding up, when you're trying to produce stuff. That makes a big difference in cost efficiency and money-wise. So I was really happy with this part right here, you know. And people on our old gap brackets said the actual line, these holes kind of almost just went straight down. They said if they put them in the bottom hole, they were close to running out of threads on their heims. So I made these holes a little more slanted to fix that issue, because I know that was a problem with the old gap brackets. Nobody's ever had issues because of it, but it just fixes a worry for people. So there's that. So got that bad boy in there. And then I wanted to, dude, if you're gonna pop up every time, oh, here it is closed. Then I wanted to start adding bolts. So you see that there? I added that bolt from McMaster-Carr, that bolt, and so on. So I just kept copying, pasting, moving them around, doing all that fun stuff until I had some stainless Allen head bolts. So let me flip this around. I was like, wow, that looks pretty freaking trick, you know? That looks pretty trick. Sorry, I really suck at this videoing stuff. That looks pretty trick. So then I was like, I think it would look awesome if I could do carbon. So I created a sketch on the back side of this piece, and then I extruded it and I converted it to a carbon. Bam, look at that. And I was like, oh boy, now we're freaking getting somewhere. This thing looks awesome. It looks like something, you know, like Marilat or Hammer Concepts would design. Like, this thing looks legit AF. Not to mention, you know, it's got these little things that locate it, like production's gonna be a breeze. Like, I'm just pumped. So then I started adding some bolts, some nuts. I had a U-bolt there, the nuts for the U-bolts. And then come down here. I don't want that or that. Add that other bolt in there, and bam, I drew up this little shock bracket. So that way, you could either bolt your shock, you could flip it this way and bolt it that way, or you can flip it this way and bolt it here. And either way, you have all those holes for adjustment. So then, let's come down there, got the nuts on there. I put the spacer. I was able to put the spacer in here, the bolt, the nut, the Heim, put the other U-bolt in there. And this is all stuff from McMaster-Carr. Like, I'm just inserting this stuff, like no big deal. The bolt back there, the nut back there. I put in, this is my tie down extenders that I'm gonna start producing. So that way you don't have to lay under your car every time. You just hook those bad boys on there. Put the that's supposed to look like a Caltrack bar, the lock nut. Then I go to this place called GrabCAD, which let me show you what GrabCAD looks like. That's my, boom, GrabCAD. I go here, I can download this file, and then I can instantly take it over to Fusion and upload it. So it has almost everything you could ever possibly want, and it's free of charge. So then bam, I put a leaf spring in there. You know, that way people can really get a visual on this deal. Then I'm like, okay, let's not stop there. I found a whole freaking 9-inch. And then I find a shock. And then I find a double beadlock weld wheel with a slick on it. And now I have almost a whole rendering of what the underside of your car is gonna look like. And to me, that is just a huge sales point to me. Like, I can really see what you know, most people are always like, do you have pictures of it installed? Boom, right here. Nobody ever even had to install anything. I did it online. And all these parts were scaled to the perfect size. Like, I put the exact U-bolts you would order from McMaster-Carr, I put them in here, and then I stuck this in here. And it fits those perfect. My holes, everything literally fit in perfect. Just because I took the right measurements with that bad boy. But look at that, it all fits perfect. This, you know, and this 9-inch, that is a free rendering. That is a free 3D file. It comes with disc brakes. It has the wheel studs. It, you know, this tire and wheel, that's all free. And sorry, I'm getting a little worked up, but this is really awesome. You know, this stuff, this design stuff really gets my juices flowing. But look at that. I've got a shock, all the nuts, the bolts, the extender, carbon pieces, freaking lock nuts, Heims, anything you can think of. It's all right there. So then I spent a lot of my day yesterday after I got this thing all designed, you know, which that took me a few days. Just look how cool that is. I think that spring's a little small, but either way, look how cool that looks. That is just, man, that is so slick. And it makes me so freaking happy. put my initials in there, you know, my logo in there. I widen this up so you can get like your bigger hooks in there. You know, there's just, the possibilities are endless. So let's fast forward over to, they had an LS motor. They had an LS motor, they had a billet intake, they had turbos, just everything you can possibly think of. This is what the motor looks like when I first download it. Download it, I'm like, man, I wonder if this is the actual right size. Well, then I found turbos. So I go over and I stick a turbo in there. I'm like, wow, that looks like the right size. So I copy, paste another turbo. Then I go up and I'm gonna turn this intake off. I find this billet intake that's 3 separate pieces. So I download it. There's the 3 separate pieces right there. Plop them all together and bam, it fits on this rendering. So all this stuff is perfectly scaled to size. And then look at this. I find turbo headers. So I stick them on there, stick the turbos on there. And like a lot of you are probably just saying like, Nick, it's just a 3D model, it means nothing. Well, it means everything to me, because if I want to make and produce a bracket or an adapter or 3D print something or anything, all of these holes, the water pump, the water neck, the timing cover, the oil pan, the starter, all of this stuff is completely correct. I mean, the valve covers, the coil packs, there's Holley smart coils you can download, there's throttle bodies you can download, there's so much potential here. And one of my greatest fears, and I've actually told Alex this a million times, my greatest fear is not living up to my full potential. If I don't want to waste time on this earth. We've been given so much and so many opportunities that sometimes I actually almost, it's not depression or anything like that. Don't think I'm depressed, but like I'll get in this weird like mood and people are like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, well, I just did this big thing and I accomplished this. And now, like normally I always know what I want to do, but sometimes I get in this, well, what's next? I don't know what's next, and it kind of scares me. But for some reason with this software, I'm like, the what's next is infinite. Like I know that's already a possibility, and you can always do anything you put your mind to. But this right here gives you the capability. I mean, these downloads took me 5 minutes. It took me another 5 minutes to put them in CAD. Or to put them in Fusion. Fusion is $500 a year. $500 a year, you spend more at Starbucks than you do on this. Like, now I can design stuff for turbos. These turbos are GT42 turbos. This is an actual production turbo. I can do so much now that I couldn't do yesterday, that the possibilities are just endless. And I know I've said that a million times, but this stuff is awesome. So, I've just really been working hard at trying to do more, learn more, absorb it all, just be this big race car sponge. And being a race car sponge is what I like to call myself, because I like to absorb everything I can about race cars. Carries over into this, because this right here can change the way we do race cars. You can 3D print stuff. You can design stuff, send it somewhere, have it cut and shipped to you, and you never even had to cut anything. All you had to do was send it out. Like, Some people say, oh, we like the handmade stuff, and you sound lazy. Like, I'll hand make anything any day of the week if I need it. But this right here gives me the option to produce it, or to make it fit perfect, and make it nicer, make it faster, so that way I can do more of what I really want to do and go racing. Like, this is just awesome. And I know this video has literally just been me talking, but like, just think about this. Like, I want to buy a 3D scanner. There's a handheld 3D scanner for under $1,000 that I think I'm going to buy. I've saved up enough money. So now I can have a 3D printer. I can have a scanner, and I can have this design software. I watched a video last night. I could go scan the front end of Uncle Sam, like the actual chassis of Uncle Sam. And taking that from a scan to an actual drawing is kind of hard. But it's totally possible if you try to learn it. Once you learn it, you'd be able to do it in a reasonable time. But I could scan that, and then I could draw my own motor plates. I could draw my own suspension. I could draw anything. I downloaded, and I'm gonna say I downloaded until I remember what I'm talking about or the name. It's called Mustang 2 front suspension. Every old bracket car has Mustang 2 front suspension. And people have asked me about doing long travel for Mustang 2 for a long time. And even Dennis was like, dude, there's so many Mustang 2 front kits out there that so many cars have, you'd be dumb not to try to produce something for that. So that's what I'm gonna do. And this is what I found. I added some wheels to it because I found a Lumistar 2.0 front wheel download on GrabCat also. But I found this whole Mustang 2 front end kit. So now I can literally design my own long travel bracket in probably a couple hours off of this rendering that is perfectly, all the measurements are right. I can design that and then make money with that. Like the race car people keep saying, we need this. And it's like, it's all right here at our fingertips. And all it took was for somebody to download a program and download a file and then make a little drawing. And it could change how 500 racers front suspensions is. So like, I am just really excited about where this is going to go, going forward with it. And I'm just blurting, rambling, ranting words because this is really just awesome to me. So sorry for rambling a lot, but I hope you can see the passion I have for this and the passion I have for race cars and racing in general. And this just extends, this type of stuff. I've seen Autodesk, who makes Fusion 360. I've seen them share. There's an F1 team and it says, Autodesk allows us as a small homegrown F1 team or whatever to compete with the billion-dollar companies because it gives them the tools and the stuff they need to make the parts. And it's like, that makes sense. Like this right here could take this poor ghetto boy and I could be able to make anything I want with this, produce anything I want, as long as I do it right. So here's a Mustang 2 front suspension I downloaded. It's pretty awesome. And then I downloaded these wheels, and then I downloaded this shock, and I put it all together, and it all fits. That the scaling on all these parts is right is crazy to me. But I mean, look, they all fit perfectly together. So what I'm gonna do is make a bracket that is gonna bolt under here, under the A-arm, and then it's gonna come up and do whatever. Then it's gonna have two more pieces that come down and bolt to this here spring pocket. And then obviously you have to trim this spring pocket, but what could have taken me a month or 2 weeks could now take me 1 day. I mean, just think about that. That's crazy. So if you're as passionate about race cars and racing as I am, I strongly and highly suggest that you watch some YouTube tutorials, you let your creative juices flow, you get in your imagination, and you just start doing stuff. Back when I had Mac and it was a traditional business, we trying to get cars in and out, and we tried to do it the old fashioned way. It's like, oh, well, we don't have time for that. The time you spent learning on that, you could spend out clocking labor hours on somebody's car. And it was just like, now I'm in such a more free and creative place that I can actually like pursue these things that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And maybe that's why I'm so excited about it. But I've been wanting to do this for so long, and the amount of time it's taken me to grasp it literally makes me almost sick to my stomach of how much time I've wasted by not doing it. So that's it for this video. Somebody's here. I gotta go.